Okay, let's talk about hydration cheat sheet. What's the best way to hydrate, especially for improving performance? So the main problem with vigorous exercise, basically where you're intensely exercising, is there is this drop in effective circulating blood volume, or this drop in relative blood volume feeding the heart. Because when you vigorously exercise, blood flow from the heart is going to have to go to the skin to help dissipate heat, and it's also going to go to the skeletal muscle. And so you have this drop in effective circulating blood volume to the heart of anywhere between 8 to 10%. And this can happen within just 10 minutes. So that's the main problem with what decreases performance, is this drop in effective circulating blood volume, or this relative drop in blood volume feeding the heart, because blood is now flowing to the skin and to the skeletal muscle. So what happens is at the start of exercise, within about 10 minutes, so this is basically minutes here on this axis, and this is percent change in plasma volume here on this axis. And within 10 minutes, you can get up to a 10% drop in change in plasma volume. And then usually this typically might only stay at about a 5% drop after about 60 minutes. But because you can't keep up vigorous exercise pace, for, super long. So the pace will eventually, decrease. But this is what's happening. So what you can do is, if you consume a salt solution appropriate, the only way to boost blood volume is to match the saltiness of blood. So blood is 3,200 milligrams of sodium per liter. Anywhere in this range, and actually even potentially slightly higher, is potentially even more effective. Anywhere up to 4,300 milligrams of sodium per liter is going to boost blood volume. Okay, so normal saline is 3,500 milligrams of sodium per liter. So this is what you get in the hospital. You get 0.9% salt solution. That's 3,500 milligrams of sodium per liter. Our blood is actually 3,200 milligrams of sodium per liter. So that's 0.82%. Salinity is actually what our blood is. So actually you're getting a slightly hypertonic solution in the hospital. A slightly hypertonic solution is actually better, because when you raise the blood sodium level a little bit, you're going to pull some water into the vascular space, and that's going to boost blood volume even better. Now, you don't want to overdo this, because you're going to eventually pull too much fluid from in the cell and in the interstitial fluid to the blood. So this is probably the max amount you ever want to go. And this could be the optimal amount, actually, to be fair. There's been a couple studies looking at this amount of sodium being even more effective at boosting plasma blood volume, maybe even up to 10%. But basically, if you consume a salt solution that's anywhere from 3,200 milligrams of sodium per liter to 4,300 milligrams of sodium per liter, what you do is you slowly consume that over 30 minutes, starting 90 minutes before, let's say, athletic performance. And so what that'll do is that'll get you up to potentially 8% increase in blood volume, so that by the time you start exercising at 10 minutes, you might not drop your blood volume at all, or maybe it'll go down only 2%. So basically there's not this big decrease in plasma volume, which is inhibiting your performance. So someone who doesn't preload with salt and water, their blood volume is going to be down almost 10%. Yours might only be down 2% to maybe even nothing. So this is where you're getting all the gains by consuming this type of salt solution. Most people will tell you to consume a salt solution as salty as your sweat, but that will never work. That will never significantly boost blood volume. So the average amount of sodium you lose per liter of sweat is 1,200 milligrams of sodium per liter. This is not given in the hospital, because it's not effective at increasing plasma volume. So if you want to get a performance boost, this isn't enough. So yeah, if you're just normally training and you want to rehydrate, sure, consuming a solution that's 1,200 milligrams of sodium per liter to get back what you lost, that's fine. But if you actually want an increase in performance, then you have to go with a higher salt solution. So in a 4-hour tennis match, on average, we'll lose about 1,200 milligrams of sodium. Over a 4-hour tennis match, you'll lose 4,800 milligrams of sodium. Now, you can check how much sodium you lose in sweat, and this will change because it depends on your salt status. Some people lose more salt in their sweat than others. Typically, if you're losing less salt through sweat though, that actually means you're more depleted in sodium. So people that are deficient in sodium, they might only lose 400 milligrams of sodium per liter because their body's deficient in it. Whereas someone who's very replete, they might lose 1,800 milligrams of sodium per liter. So just because you're losing a lot of sodium per liter, it's actually typically this person that needs even more salt than the person who's losing a lot. But regardless, if you want to know how much you're losing in, let's say, a 4-hour tennis match, you can actually do, basically there's patches, Gatorade has patches to kind of measure the saltiness of your sweat. But if you're doing a 4-hour tennis match, you can see here, you may lose about 4,800 milligrams of sodium. So if you preload with 4,300 milligrams of sodium, you've basically lost nothing. Now, on average, you'll lose 1 to 1.5 liters of water per hour. So in a 4-hour tennis match, you'll lose anywhere between 4 to 6 liters of fluid. So if you preloaded with a full liter of this solution, you're still at a net deficit of 3 to 5 liters of water, but you can still consume that over the course of the 4-hour tennis match, consuming 3 to 4 to 5 liters of water, throughout 4 hours of the match will replace that water loss. So most people get this wrong. Most people think you should be consuming a solution that's about as salty as your sweat when it comes to boosting athletic performance, but actually you want to consume a solution that's as salty as your blood. Now, you do not need this though when you are just like training normally. Typically, if you're just training normally, you can consume something like this, maybe 30 minutes before exercise, just to make sure you're hydrated and you feel good. But if you are doing like some type of competition, then you need to be consuming something as salty as your blood if you want to truly boost blood volume.